Howdy everyone, and welcome back to the Crappie Engineer YouTube channel. If you're new here, this is the channel where I play whatever game I feel like playing. Usually it's Bloons and a little bit of Enter the Gungeon recently. I also like Slay the Spire a lot. Let me know what you guys would like to see, really. Um, Now, as we get into this, today I'm just going to talk about some engineering projects, maybe some ones worth building for your portfolio. Some that I plan on pursuing myself, and really anything you want to make is worth building for no reason. You can just explain it and start putting your mind toward it. So, yeah, just a bit of context about me is that I just finished my freshman year of engineering, and I've been putting together a sort of portfolio site so I can keep track of my progress towards these sort of projects. And building it has made something obvious to me really quickly. I would say my project list is pretty thin, and it's just a few sort of CAD projects and some other certifications that I can talk my way around in interviews. But I'd kind of like to expand my horizons with some new ideas. Let me know if you have any ideas in the comments as well. But I started making a list for myself, and mainly these are things that I think would be worth my time. And somewhere in the middle of making it, I realized the list was teaching me something I didn't expect. And now you get the list and kind of the lesson I want to share with you. All right, let's get into project number one. And before we do this, I want to paint a little picture for you first. So you're going to be walking to class, and it's about 8 a.m. You're minding your own business, and you're barely awake. Your energy drink hasn't kicked in yet for the day, and out of absolutely nowhere, some dude on an electric scooter rips past you at Mach 12. He's just inches away from your shoulder, and there's no bell, and he doesn't call out on your left. There's just nothing. Your whole life flashes before your eyes, right? He's already 40 feet down the sidewalk, and he's not thinking about you at all. If you've ever walked on a college campus in the last 5 years, you know exactly the moment I'm describing. So this question is, what do you do about this? Um, so I just want to share an idea that my physics professor had with me, and it's the reason he's on this list. It would be a backpack that detects a scooter coming up from behind you at over 20 miles per hour, and at this point, it would deploy a pneumatic arm to clothesline the rider and completely destroy him. Um, I don't think you could ever actually deploy this on a public sidewalk, but if you try to build it for real, you'd run into some generally hard engineering problems immediately. How does a backpack know that's a scooter behind you and not a jogger? Well, it'd probably be the speed, right? But how does it figure out the speed before the guy's already passed you? Does an arm swing out half a second that actually matters? My professor thought he was venting about scooters, but what he actually did was he accidentally designed a whole sensor capstone project. Keep that in mind because that idea is the entire reason I'm making this video, and I'll come back to it at the end. Alright, now the next project would just be a little bit of a more tame project, and I think it would actually be really useful for a lot of people. So number two, and this is one I'd tell you to actually start with if you're at zero. I bought an Arduino kit off Amazon on a whim. It was pretty cheap. It had a little workbook, and it had 10 built-in projects. Blink an LED and spin a motor. Nothing super crazy, and I didn't expect too much going into it, right? But the thing that came with it was an exam voucher. And I figured, why not? And I walked away with an actual certification in microelectronics and physical computing just from an Amazon kit. I would say that's a real credential with my name on it and off something I bought the way you buy phone chargers, you know? It's pretty useful. This is a very low barrier to entry project, and it's very simple to get started with and just begin learning. This is something that you could give a middle schooler and they know how to do it right, but a lot of people lack this experience. And I'd say to start here, and with nothing else, definitely try this before anything else I'm about to say. Okay, now we're on to project number three. And I would say, I think everyone should just take a crack at building a BattleBot. Combat robotics is an engineering with a scoreboard, right? There's a weight limit, so every gram you put in the armor is a gram you can't put into the weapon. There's lots of different types: spinner, wedge, hammer, whatever you pick. It kind of shapes the entire design and drivetrain of the project, the armor, all of it. Every one of those choices fights with every other one when you're coming out with your final design. And at the end of all your trade-offs, another robot shows up specifically to take yours apart, and you find out what you got wrong when building this. So I haven't built one yet, and this is definitely on my own list for the next year's building a robot, BattleBot specifically, and I'd want to share that with all of you guys once I got to it. Um, right now, I'm looking at designing a three-legged robot instead of a normal four-legged one. Uh, this is kind of a unique challenge, and it also gets into some more control system sort of things, and that's something I want to branch out into. But overall, a BattleBot really forces you to finish something and test it, and you find out in public if you were right. And there's no better portfolio story than that in the end, I think. Okay, the next project is going to be a mini CNC router. Everybody, or a lot of people have 3D printers now, and even if you don't, you can buy a really cheap one off of Facebook Marketplace, or you can. The other day, I even found a trashed one in my garbage room, and I took the stepper motors out of it because it was beyond disrepair, but those are definitely going towards a project in the future. I really love my 3D printer, but at the end of the day, you're kind of just stacking melted plastic on top of each other, and a CNC router goes a completely different direction. You put a block of aluminum or wood, and it cuts away everything that isn't your specific part. And I spend a stupid amount of time in SolidWorks because of my recent part design projects, just to add to my portfolio. And the idea of having my own models come out on the other side of engineering using subtractive engineering with a similar setup, where you're starting with wood or metal, is something I haven't been able to stop thinking about since I found that these could just sit on a desk if you were to create one. And you can get a small one as a kit for a couple hundred, or if you actually want this as a portfolio piece, you could build the entire mini CNC router yourself. And this is the version that I definitely want to try out and do in the future. All right, now we're on to project number 5. This project would be a Roomba that pushes a mess under the couch, and it doesn't actually clean anything at all. This is a stupid ass project if you're a shitty roommate, and I definitely want to try this out with my roommates this coming year. And before you skip this one, let's think about what you'd actually have to do. It has to recognize there's a mess in the first place or some garbage on the ground. It has to know your sock is pushable and your dog is not. Um, this is a interesting distinction, but you know, if your roommates don't have dogs, then you wouldn't even have to factor this in. It would find a couch and it would just try to get everything under there. Maybe you could designate an area for it to try to push everything under there, maybe without wedging itself is another design constraint you'd have to think about. It would just be like a normal Roomba that bounces off the wall, but its main objective is actually pushing a bunch of garbage in a inconvenient space for everyone else living with you. If you've ever built or filmed this in working time, people would lose their minds. Your roommates wouldn't really appreciate this, but nobody's really forgetting the guy who made a Roomba that inconvenienced their life and is a good story for later. Okay, project number 6. Now, this is a project that I've actually already done, and I would just say to, if you're, especially if your school offers it for free, go and get a SolidWorks certification. It's not, it can be a little boring at times to do practice problems and study for an exam, but I would say this has really benefited me in realizing what I can kind of branch out to and flex my engineering chops a little bit. Um, Most of my work through clubs at school have been redesigning mechanical systems, and this has done a lot for me to kind of gain some experience and even work my way into a leadership role within the club I'm part of currently. And the certification is one thing off the entire list that they already know without me explaining anything. Everything else here needs a bit of a story behind it to show up on your resume and portfolio, but this doesn't really need that. It just shows that you have a little bit of dedication to expanding your horizons. All right, this is the seventh and final thing I have for this list, And this is going to be a finite element analysis certification, or FEA. And this is kind of the other half of a lot of my mechanical projects where I didn't just like draw out the part and hope for the best. I actually ran analysis on it to see where it would fail given real world pressure and tension constraints. And that's kind of the basics of finite element analysis. This this certification completely changed how a project sounds when I talk about it. From I designed a part and it works all right to I designed a part and I proved that it holds up to different constraints. And this is a completely different conversation for a lot of engineers. And especially coming from a freshman, if you're able to complete this, a lot of people find it impressive and it really can help you stand out. Everything on this list is kind of just stuff I'm suggesting, but this is another thing that I actually did, which is why I decided to put it last and definitely wanted to include it as a bit of help to up and coming students. Okay, so now just to sum up my thoughts a little bit, here's what making this list really did for me. So when I started writing it, I had two piles in my head. This is kind of the real one, certifications, kits, and machines that I've already experienced and tackled myself. And then there's some of the more off the wall out there ones, and I looked at the finished list and I realized that these more ridiculous ones are the hardest engineering on the page. The backpack that knocks scooters off their ride would have to have the sense and react in half a second or less, really. And the Roomba has to see and convert visual inputs into decision making. And this is kind of an interesting AI project if you want it to be. And nobody asked for either of these projects, and that's exactly why the person who builds it would be remembered over 100 people who did all the same three kit projects. So I just want to leave y'all with this. If your brain hands you an idea, even one that seems dumb at the time, and especially a dumb one, just start working on it, sketch it, model it, build the first crappy version of it. Someone out there will think it's the coolest thing they've ever seen in the end. That's what I'm trying to do with all of this, and honestly, engineering will probably be my job one day, or at least I hope it will. But it's also a thing I love doing, and I never want those two to be split apart. And if you're sitting on a dumb idea, leave it in the comments. I kind of want to hear from y'all and your thoughts on these, especially if you got this far in the video. And best case, we can talk about it and maybe look at building it together. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. And one more quick side note is obviously don't build anything that's going to cause other people harm. I don't want to be the guy that inspired someone to hurt other people. I want to be the guy who helped maybe inspire you, especially if you got this far in the video, to just chase your ideas, though. Thank you. Another thing is that I'm trying to create these videos to practice speaking, and let me know if you have any tips or anything else that I could do to make these videos a little bit better and more entertaining.